Ross?
Here.
White?
Here.
Taylor? Here. Robinson?
Here.
Gaines? Here. Baggett? Here. Height?
Here.
And Witcher?
Present.
The quorum is present, sir.
Can we stand for the prayer to be led by Alderman Gaines, followed by the pledge by Alderman Baggett? Bow our heads, please.
Our Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this opportunity to gather tonight, Lord. We thank you for the blessings and help us that we'll be encouraging each other, be patient with each other, and help us, O Lord, to have the wisdom to do the right thing. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So moved.
Second.
Made and seconded that the minutes of the previous meeting be approved as submitted on the motion.
Ross?
Yes.
White? Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines? Baggett?
Here.
Here.
It's actually yes.
Oh, it's yes.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
sorry,
yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Whitby. Do I see communications?
Yes.
We have 7.
I didn't make my book. Well, no, it did make my book. I'm sorry. Do I have a blanket motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any council member want any one of these pulled?
7.
Any other one other than 7? All right, 1 through 6 will be accepted and filed as submitted.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor, and number 2.
All right, number 2 and 7 will be removed. So 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on the blanket motion. Ms. Whitby?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Would you read 2, Ms. Whitby, and then read it by title and then see what Alderman Witcher wants to do?
Number 2 is an email from Mr. Nathan Brandis. It is to the mayor and city council members regarding ordinance 0911, opposing the same.
All right.
Mayor, if I may just give a quick synopsis of this. Mr. Brandis, who's one of our folks in the Lakewood Northeast area, had written all of the council regarding the proposed changing of copy signs. And basically, what he says is that 15 seconds is an adequate time, and with 5 seconds with no illusion of motion. And then he goes into a long dissertation of about 10 items that cover why we shouldn't consider it. And I would hope that everyone has looked at this. And with that, let's synopsis.
So with that, I'll take out a motion to accept and file.
I'll second it.
On the motion,
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
all right, reads number 7 by title and then see what Alderman Witcher wants to do.
A letter dated March 23, 2009, to the City Council regarding Act 294 of 2009 from City Attorney C. Jason Carter, and it's regarding Sunday on-premise alcohol consumption.
Could we read that in its entirety?
To the North Little Rock City Council regarding Act 294 of 2009. Dear members of the City Council, the purpose of this letter is to inform you that the state of Arkansas recently amended the law regarding the sale of alcoholic beverages on Sunday. Under Act 294 of 2009, any person who holds a permit that allows the on-premises consumption of alcoholic beverages is now authorized to operate on Sunday between the hours of 10 a.m. and 12 midnight. I recommend that the Advertising and Promotion Commission take reasonable steps to inform local permit holders about Act 294. Also, since this rule partially supersedes Section 6-40 of the North Little Rock Municipal Code, I recommend that we amend our rules to conform to state law. Sincerely, C. Jason Carter, City Attorney.
Question.
Yes.
Does Advertising and Promotion Commission acknowledge receipt of this letter?
It hasn't been forwarded to them yet.
Oh, it has not been
I sent it
forwarded.
to you first. If you accept and file this letter, I'll forward this to A&P.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there a motion to that effect?
Move accept and file.
Second.
Forward to A&P. There's a motion made that we accept and file. Let me just ask the city attorney, it would seem, I know that some of our ordinances perhaps are not in conformance with the state law, would you feel like we either need, because I know I don't think we're in question, state law supersedes, our ordinances, but should we adopt legislation compatible with the state, or should we just go on about our business and, do what the state law says?
Well, obviously, we could just go on about our business and do what state law says. I think if we clean up our books, it might give the business owners a little more comfort. It's not something that's an emergency that needs to be done, but just over time, to clean it up would probably be the best course of action.
Well, let me ask, if you would, and I'll be happy to sponsor it, and again, you don't need to run downstairs and start to work on it, but if you would go ahead and prepare legislation, that would reflect the state law, and obviously in the legislation, cite the reason that we're doing it, and let's, whenever you have an opportunity or your office has an opportunity, just go ahead and feel free to put my name as a sponsor, and let's make our our ordinances compatible with what the state mandates.
I'll be
I
glad
think
to do
it'd
it,
be fair
Mayor.
notice, and, then our books will reflect what the law requires.
Be happy to.
With that, on the motion to accept and file,
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor? Yes. Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines? Baggett? Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
we don't have any scheduled public hearings or at this point. I know we have a presentation by the North Shore Animal League of America. No, wait a minute. By the Friends of the Animals regarding the North Shore Animal League of America Annual Tour for Life 2009. Hello, Marilyn. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you.
We know because of you and the crew you have that are out at the animal shelter, we're continue to remain proud of all the good work that y'all do, and particularly since we, have to raise your salary every year. We appreciate your volunteer efforts on behalf of the Friends of the Animal and the animal shelter.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the chance to tell you about a very important event we're having at Lakewood Village Wednesday, April 8th. North Shore Animal League America is again making North Little Rock a stop on their Tour for Life. North Shores is the largest animal rescue group in the world, and each spring they leave New York and travel across country to 20 different cities and join local rescue groups to hold a day-long event encouraging the adoption of shelter animals, and also promoting the importance of spay and neutering. We are the smallest city on the tour and the only stop in Arkansas. The team that comes to us each year, and this is the 8th year they've come, will be going to Houston, Dallas, San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Denver, Chicago, Nashville, and North Little Rock. And when they first approached us about this 8 years ago, everyone kept saying, why are they coming to North Little Rock? And I didn't know either. So I called New York and asked, and they said, well, we've heard about the good work you do there, finding homes for the animals that come into the shelter, and also the work you do promoting the spaying and neutering of animals. So we're just proud that for the 8th year they will be back here. We will be, as I said, at Lakewood Village Wednesday, April 8th. I've invited some other rescue groups to be there with us that day. We've got a lot of special activities planned. The first 50 people who bring a sterilized animal to the event will get a free microchip and rabies shot. And those microchips are wonderful. If we get an animal in the shelter, first thing we do is check it for a microchip, and we can get it right back to the owner that way. A lot of times they lose their tags, but they're not going to lose that microchip, so that's a good thing. Any animal adopted that day will also be microchipped. We're going to have free giveaways. We're going to have information on pet care. Alderwoman Beth White will be there with her 2 wonderful shelter dogs, and very well-trained dogs, I might add, and she might have some advice for some of you on taking care of your dogs and on some training. We're going to have a drawing each hour for a free spay or neuter for a cat or a dog, and I just hope And I've asked some other rescue groups from around the area to come and join us that day. So I just hope a lot of you will come out, meet the people from New York. They tell us every year, when I say, are you going to be back next year? They say, well, we have to have a meeting about that, but if it's up to us, we'll be back. You may be the smallest city on the tour, but you're the most enthusiastic. So that's good, too. So come out and tell them thank you for coming to North Little Rock. Give them a welcome to our city, and look at all the beautiful animals we have for adoption. Thank you. And I have some flyers. Is there some place I could leave these in case someone wants to pick one up?
Sure.
Would
Why
it
don't
be
you
all
leave them
right?
with the city attorney's office? No, leave them with the city clerk's office, and we'll
Okay.
get those where they can be
That'd be great.
distributed. And we appreciate it, Marilyn, not only, obviously what you do, but all the Friends of the Animals and the staff out there at Continue under Billy Grace's, we'll say, professional day in and day out efforts to do us a great deal of pride. And we do care about, our four-legged friends, and we know y'all do. And it's nice to hear when the word gets around.
It is, and Billy Grace has done a terrific job at the shelter with the ordinances that he's passed and all the work he's done. But I want to thank all of you, too, because you've all been very supportive of the animal shelter, and we couldn't do it without all of you. So thank you very much.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you. Let me mention one thing before we go back to the agenda. I see where we've got 4 people who have signed up to speak on agenda items, and so we'll go ahead and do that in just a second. But one thing, I know Alderman Height had his first meeting of the dumpster ordinance.
That's correct.
And I know I also read in the paper and had a chance to understand that Alderman Gaines is planning on filing some legislation dealing with the repeal of that. I want you to know I'm also going to ask the city attorney's office to file. I had thought that we had done something a bit different when I spoke last city council meeting with regard to actually what we did in addition to the moratorium, and I've realized that in fact we asked the planning, or at least my legislation did, ask the planning to identify the dumpsters and send notifications advising a non-compliance and directing that improvements to the directing the improvements to the dumpster be completed by no later than July 1st, 09. I'm going to go ahead and let everyone know that I'm instructing code to not do anything in furtherance of Section 2 and anticipation of some action being taken that would amend that. I don't want to, to the extent we send notifications out, then no action will be taken. No action will be taken with regard to anything in Section 2, except I'm going to put that also on a hold until we get the removal of that in front of the council next council meeting. I understand there may be some additional legislation, and understanding what Alderman Gaines is going to do. I know, I know we've sort of gone down a road, and as we try to decide what is the best in the community's interest, this is one thing I wanted to make sure folks knew, particularly our planning department, that we're not going to be doing anything in furtherance of Section 2 until we have a chance to act on this at the next council meeting, and then perhaps if we undo it, we won't be doing anything at all until we finally decide what we might want to do, with regard to our dumpsters. Alderman Height, you want to make a quick comment?
I'll make a quick comment. We had a very spirited, very proactive meeting Friday morning at the chamber. It lasted almost 2 hours. We made a lot of movement towards determining what the real issues are regarding dumpsters here in North Little Rock. Alderman Gaines made a very lengthy speech to everybody there concerning the ordinance that was passed by the city council and his intention to repeal it. I would hesitate to say that I'm in total support of repealing that ordinance, in that there may be some sections in that ordinance that we might need to keep intact, and we may need to, rather than repeal that total ordinance, we may need to amend that ordinance to rather than repealing the whole entire ordinance. And so that's one of the things that my committee, and we're going to meet again next Wednesday, will be discussing, is the problems concerning the dumpsters here in North Little Rock and the solutions to those problems. I had everybody in that meeting write down on a piece of paper a problem that they found with the dumpsters in North Little Rock, whether that be from the companies that service the dumpsters, or with the business owners, or whether it just be residents that live in the city, and what they perceive to be the real problem with dumpsters. And the one word, ugly, came out of that meeting. Is that's the big issue with dumpsters in North Little Rock and any city, is that you just can't legislate prettiness. And so we're going to be looking at solutions to the problems in the city of North Little Rock regarding dumpsters. And one of the issues that we're going to talk about and discuss is what we need to do with that ordinance. And I hope to come up with a solution, an alternative to that ordinance, rather than maybe repealing it. Maybe we have some amendments to it that we could tweak it a little bit to make it more palatable.
Okay.
That's where we are, Mayor.
Any other comments? All right, let's go to the, we got a presentation, citizen comment on agenda items. Let me go down the road. First one's listed as George Ivory on RO 945. Mr. Ivory.
Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm quite happy to be here this afternoon. I thought that maybe Mr. Brown might want to make introductory remarks, and I'll respond to any questions that the City Council might have in regard to this item.
Thank you, Mr. Ivory. Mayor, this is a rehab agreement. This is in reference to a piece of property that was condemned, I believe, last July at 4015 Glenmere. Before Mr. Ivory was representing the family members, we had condemned the property. One of the alleged owners did not have any money or any type of plan to rehab the house. We condemned it. They filed an appeal in circuit court, and that condemnation is appealing in front of Judge Moody in 3rd Division. Since then, Mr. Ivory's clients have been able to hire a contractor, have been able to come up with a financial plan, and have been able to come up with giving us some earnest money of approximately $2,500 to attempt to rehab the house within 6 months. So right now we have litigation, and because of that, this would resolve the litigation, offering us to settle it, giving them an opportunity to rehab it in 6 months. And if it's not rehabbed in 6 months, then we would go ahead and tear the property down using their money for our expenses. So.
All right, let's, is that all, Mr. Ivory?
I believe that's it, Your Honor, unless
right,
there are some specific questions.
Yeah, let me, I think, the city attorney's office recommends that, let's go ahead and act on it if we want to, unless there's an objection. Would you call that, Ms. Whitby?
Yes, sir. RO 945, a resolution approving settlement in the case of the estate of Nora Ruth Herrick et al. Versus the City of North Little Rock, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement to rehabilitate property located at 4015 Glenmere.
Let's get a motion first.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Are the owners here the ones that are going to be doing the rehab? I just have some questions for them.
Mr. Ivory?
Yes, sir. The contract is here, and I would ask...
Are the owners here? Yeah. Okay. I have questions.
And the owners are also here, too.
Okay. I just had some questions for them. For the
Who
owners.
you want, the owners
If
or
they
the
come up-
contractor or
The
both?
owners. No, the owners are the ones I had some questions for.
While we're waiting, I would just like to insert that with our agreement, we developed that standardized agreement to rehabilitate our property, which we felt like protect our interests, and their agreement doesn't substantially deviate from any part of that. I mean, it just delineates the $2,500 deposit amount, but other than that, it's our stock form agreement.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, one of the questions, I just want to make sure that y'all are aware in the time frame. You do feel that you're going to be able to get this all done in the time frame, and that if these time frames are not met, that's it? There's no leeway.
The contractor said he would be able to start in about approximately 3 weeks.
Okay, and I've had a lot of complaints, the rodents running in and out and everything, so as far as, are y'all going to take care of that? The house is behind it.
The roof will be replaced.
Okay.
I will live there.
Okay, so you do plan on living there? Okay, that was one of the questions, so, okay, that's good. Let's see, what else? This is just a question, I guess, for code more or less, but, as far as the grass and the upkeep while the house is being rehabbed, I mean, the grass still has to be kept up and everything like that, the yard and everything, so, okay. Because I know this house, we've had quite a problem with it, and so, I mean, if you're going to fix it up, then that's great and live in it, but I'm just, I know rehabbing, it's hard to meet those deadlines. I just want to make sure that you understand that you can meet those.
This should be.
Okay, and you are going to live in it. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
I have had a fair bit of experience with this, and I want to say right now that Bill Brown and our legal department has really done an enormous amount of work in relation to this house. And having sat in on code court several times, I see the things they're facing, and our city really has a big job in dealing with houses that are not in good condition, and I want to commend them for, many, many hours of work went into just this one case.
And, you stated that they have 6 months, which is a fairly long time, and you can build a house in 6 months. And I guess my question is, when does the clock start ticking for the 6 months?
As soon as you pass it and the mayor signs it.
Okay.
Any other questions on the motion?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Present?
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
All right, we'll get it up and I'll sign it tomorrow, if not tonight. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We have Mr. Ard wants to speak on 0911. Mr. Ard?
Thank you, Mayor. These signs are very important to customers and to business owners. And we've had this 15-second deal for a long time, since Alderman Witcher got it passed. We got signs out there where they ignore the 15 seconds and they let them get by with it. But these people that have business have a right to do their signs, I feel, the way they want to. They pay for them. Some people will not buy these signs because of this ordinance. I know, because I've sold a few of them. And this is not helping the economy right now as hard as it is. So I wish you'd take a good look at it. I do not feel it's going to hinder the city of North Little Rock. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ard. Mr. Patrick Stair, S-T-A-I-R, on the same issue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I apologize for waiting till the third reading to come and speak out against this ordinance. The effort to have safe streets and the effort to have good signage can sometimes be in real conflict. It is a fact that we are visual creatures. We look at things that move. We're like frogs and flies and cats and birds. Anything that moves might be prey or a predator, or it might be something moving toward you that you have to avoid, like maybe a big car. It's a fact that these moving signs are designed to attract our attention. And if they didn't attract our attention, why would they really want them? My problem is, if somebody's driving down a busy thoroughfare at 20 or 40 or 60 miles an hour, I'd really rather not have the driver's attention distracted. I'd really rather have the driver paying attention to the road and perhaps notice that I am coming toward them or pulling out in front of them. I think these things are very bad. 15 seconds is bad enough, but 5 seconds, you're getting so close to moving. It takes you 5 seconds, perhaps, to read and absorb the information in these signs. And by then, there's another new message, and then another new message. In the meanwhile, you're driving down a very busy street. Now, there's some research that's been done by the Highway and Transportation Safety Administration and others in which they've attempted to determine exactly how bad this is. And a lot of times they've come up with the need for more research. But in doing these analyses, they have found definite situations. I'll read you just a couple of quotes. In 2006, the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, in a study called The Impact of Driver Inattention on Near Crash Risk, said over 18% of all at-fault crashes and near crashes occurring in an urban environment are attributable to eyes off the forward roadway. So 18% of our crashes are because of driver inattention. They further said, the analysis of eye glance behavior indicates that total eyes off road durations of greater than 2 seconds significantly increased individual near crash risk. So we're gradually coming down to where we'll be like some other places where we have full motion. As has been pointed out elsewhere, a number of signage in the town pretty much ignores the 15-second rule. I've seen a couple of them, and they're also breaking this proposed 5-second rule. And they use motion, and they advance more quickly than 5 seconds. If we get down to 5 seconds, you might as well just go like Vegas and just allow for full motion. The effect will be essentially the same. By the time you have adjusted for this motion, for this new message, and appropriated it, and it takes time. It takes longer than 2 seconds to read this. The wreck could have occurred. The new message will be up there. I really think this is a very bad idea for safety issues. I understand the benefits to the business owners. As I said, if it didn't attract attention, why would they want to do it? The problem is it attracts the attention of drivers who are barreling down the roads in rather significant vehicles. And I really would prefer not to have to watch out for the drivers that much, in addition to having to strenuously avoid the message signs. I find myself having to jerk my eyes away from them, and they're not everybody that's as willing to work at it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I think that's all on this issue. I might as well continue on. Not that this is going to become a habit, but let's go ahead and since that's the first on the agenda in terms of, well, actually the second on the agenda in terms of ordinances, let's go ahead and call it, Ms. Whitby.
Okay, 00911, an ordinance amending ordinance number 7697, the zoning ordinance regarding electronic changeable copy signs, and this is the third and final reading.
Okay, the proponent, I think it's sponsored by Alderman Gaines and Alderman Baggett. What's your pleasure?
Well, Mayor Hayes, it's a part of the planning commission passed something they're sending to you for next time, and so we'd rather, of course, discuss that with your total package. And so perhaps from now on, we'll learn from this, and when we want to hold something, maybe I'll tell you beforehand, so we won't have these gentlemen very well articulate, very good spokesmen, both of them. I'm glad to hear them. But since the planning commission passed it 6-1, we were going to pull it down tonight if the planning commission had opposed this ordinance. But since they passed it as a part of a total plan to send to the mayor, we'll just wait and see what 2 weeks from now then, and just see what they voted for it 6-1, and found that there was not any, that didn't show any difference between people that have cities that have 5 seconds and have 15 seconds in accidents. So we'd like to go ahead and just hold that then and see what.
Okay.
And we'll learn from this, and perhaps next time, if someone comes up with something we intend to hold it, we'll let them speak then.
That'll be fine.
All
Mr.
right.
Miller, on R0949, as you come to the microphone, I just want to let you know that I got a copy of your email and agreed with you. I've talked to Mr. Gadan. He doesn't have any problems, and so there's an amendment pending to make it 24 months. So just so you'll know that ahead of time, you might save you a few words.
I appreciate that, Mayor, and I appreciate the concern. I'm here in support of this transfer with that amendment, although personally, if I would have gone for a longer time frame given the credit crunch. But I encourage the city, and this council has been very encouraging of development, not just investment. By putting these time limits on properties, they do encourage development. We've had a number of fits and starts downtown and in other parts, and your recent property sales, Baptist Hospital, 7th and Main, have all included this sort of reasonable time limit, and thank you, Mayor, for that. I also want to thank the 2 alderpersons and the mayor's office who acknowledged receipt of the email, and I appreciate that. Thank you for either sending me back a receipt or acknowledging that. And those who either didn't get it might want to check or whatever, but, you know, appreciate with knowing as a voter and a citizen that at least our representatives got the emails. You know, we don't always have to agree, but at least we know we're heard, and I appreciate that. But thank you for those, and thank you for the amendment, Mayor.
Not at all.
Mayor, I have a question
Who?
for Mr. Gadan.
Well, it's not before us right now, so.
Okay.
But we'll pull it in front of us
All
since,
right.
we're kind of doing this tonight. Would you read R0949, Ms. Whitby?
Yes, sir. A resolution approving the transfer of the property rights and obligations relating to Lot B, P, and R properties addition to the City of North Little Rock and prescribing other matters relating thereto.
Mr.
I'll move for
Ganand?
adoption,
Move
then.
for adoption. Is there a second? Mr. Ganand, John, if you want to come to the microphone, Mr. Hyde has a question.
I just hate to hear from someone else as to why you, Mr. Gadan, think this is a fair amendment.
I think, obviously, I think more time is going to be needed, but I think it's fair because the city selling property in any part of the city to any developer without a time frame for development, I don't think that's the right thing to do. I really don't. So I'm in favor of the amendment for a time frame. If we're not able to pull it off after the master plan within that time frame, I think the council will hear legitimate responses from us on why that couldn't occur, whether it's economics or whatever the reason might be. But I think it's a very legitimate objection that Scott brought up, and I support that actually very much for not only us, for anybody else that would do that.
So you're confident then that within a 2-year period, something's going to be happening down there?
No, I think what you heard him say, Alderman, is that he feels like the council would be willing to listen to the justifications if he had to come back in and ask for an extension.
I heard that. But I also heard that I heard what you said, Mayor, but I just also heard that you're confident, I can tell by the grin on your face, you're confident something's going to be happening down there within a 2-year period.
Well, I think within 2 years, we will have a fully fleshed out plan, hopefully the financing in place, and something that all of you would be really proud of in our downtown. And hopefully we'd be able to break ground by then and do some work with the city's assistance on some of the utilities and some of the other issues based on the agreement. So I'm hoping that we can make it to that point, yes.
I don't know how many times something has come up down on Main Street that we as the city council said grace over and it evaporated on us. And so.
Well, one of the things too, and I agree with you, Alderman, certainly what John has said, and that's that, I totally agree that a time frame needs to be there, and I think 2 years is a reasonable time frame. I think the desire obviously is always that something happen, but I don't think the city has any desire. Now, the 2 years, I think when that passes, if we didn't give an extension, then we have the opportunity to perhaps reacquire the property. We'd have to take some affirmative acts in order to move that forward. So, I don't know that we've ever denied a reasonable request. In terms of our property, I think we want development and want quality development, and we recognize that sometimes, developers can't meet those timeframes, but I do believe, that a goal ought to be put in there, and this goal is a little bit more definite than a goal. It certainly, has some reversion interest to it, but we've historically been very receptive to understanding why people would do one thing or another. Is your hand up, Alderwoman Ross? Okay. You have the microphone.
Oh, I just had a question on this amendment, and I think Mr. Carter's clarified this for me. Where in the resolution, it says the
Tell you
seller...
what, is this on the amendment?
Yeah,
Let's
it's
get a
not
motion
before us
to
yet.
amend.
Move to amend
Second.
the title in Section 2
All right.
as proposed.
Okay, the motion to amend is what Mr. Carter circulated.
You want me to explain that?
Okay, now
Okay.
we can talk about the amendments. It
Yeah,
hadn't
I've
been
jumped
before.
around so much, I don't know where you are tonight, but okay. Okay, in the resolution, it says seller, but then in the amendment, it says seller receiving final, because seller is Peroni in the resolution, but in the amendment, seller is the city. Is that correct?
Right, because
Under the
what we're
contract?
saying is, right, those terms are, as they're defined under paragraph 5 of the closing memorandum. So really what you're talking about is originally when the property transferred, it was the city and the Public Building Authority selling the property to Mr. Peroni, or I guess one of the subsidiaries that he owns, and he was the buyer. So then we both had obligations under that agreement, us as the seller, him as the buyer, and this would be Argentco LLC stepping into the shoes of the
So
buyer.
just erase that name and put in their name and add 24 months? Is that correct?
Right, all we're doing,
All we're doing.
because right now, because they step into the shoes of the buyer, right, so they still have the same obligations that the buyer originally had. Time has run on the buyer.
Right.
So what they're saying is, hey, I'm a new buyer, give me time, to make something happen, and we acknowledge that, things can't happen instantaneously. Adoption of the resolution says, move forward, develop your plans to develop the property, and
Okay, so in 24 months, okay, that's another thing on the final construction plans. What does final construction plans? Does that mean something in hand? This is what's going on?
those were defined in the original agreement about the process of the development of construction plans and then the initiation of construction. So those were benchmarks that had to be met under the original plan. What we're saying in this agreement is that those timeframes are reset to the point of transfer today.
Okay. Okay. Wait, there's one more question I had now. Wait, what was it?
One of them probably had to do with the title. I was, my First Amendment was prompted by a concerned member of the media that that the title of the resolution made it look like the property was being transferred to the city when it was not.
Okay.
Because, right, the definition of the lot was Lot B, P&R Properties, addition to the city of North Little Rock. That is the title of the property. The property is not transferring to the city.
Okay, my second question. So in 24 months, we don't have the final construction plans. Is it still set at the same price?
Right, I mean, those were our rights under the contract.
Okay, so everything is exactly the same?
Right, they're
Okay,
just stepping
that's all
into
I
the shoes of the buyer, and we're restarting the clock.
Okay, 24 months. Got it.
Any other questions? We're on the motion to amend right now, if I'm not mistaken, right, Ms. Whitby? Let's go ahead and get a vote on the motion to amend.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height? And Witcher?
Yes, move
Adopt
to
as
adopt
amended.
as amended. Thank you,
Second.
Charlie.
On the motion.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Appreciate it.
John. Let's go back to, unless I'm mistaken, go back to unfinished business now. We're finished with our citizens' comment about public agenda items, along with 3 public agenda items. Ms. Whitby,
00902, Mayor Hayes.
go ahead and call that.
An ordinance vacating and abandoning an alley in Block 4 of the Union Heights addition to the City of North Little Rock. Second reading.
I finally got down and took a look at that, and that's an interesting alley. It's only, I think some of you, we all have looked at it, and absent any easement issues, remind me what we were talking about closing half of it. I know that we were trying to avoid a pathway back there. So, tell me what we're interested in doing.
We had one landowner, I think, who is, and I'm not sure which one, I can't tell you which address it is. Everybody on the block, it seems like, wants this alley to be abandoned except for one landowner. And, we ran into some, some of the case we've researched, primarily the case out of Monticello, where Monticello ran into a problem with abandoning an alley over the objection of an adjacent property owner, where if we can't get consent to it, that might be a course of action that we would carefully consider because of the liability that might erupt from it.
Well, I'm ready to support it at this point. Absent your advice, I know that every time I tend to go down there, and for 5 council meetings, I don't make it, but I did make it this time. So I'm ready to move forward on this, subject to your advice.
Well, my only concern is whether the landowner who had his objection still maintains his objection. If there's a landowner who says that he's using that alleyway to access the part of his property, it inures to the benefit of his property, and the case that he would try to raise is that we've taken a property right that attaches to his
So what's your
realty.
advice?
My advice would be to get his consent before we would proceed.
Okay, well then, this is the 6th time, so why don't we go ahead and I'll do this, because if we don't act on it tonight, I think it goes off, if I'm not mistaken. So let's go ahead and let me withdraw it. I'm ready to vote in favor of it. That alley doesn't look like it's been used in ever, and there's it connects 2 blocks, neither of which have alleys, so it's all by itself. So, I'm certainly ready, subject to your advice against, to move forward with that based on, what I think is perhaps better for the city. So with that, I'll withdraw it and then wait till you tell me whether or not we ought to bring it back, and if so, what we ought to do.
Mayor, may I ask a quick question, Mr. Carter? All right, what, other than the property owner agreeing, what would the other remedy be, Mr. Carter?
We'd close half the alley, I think, wouldn't
Well, I mean, to the extent that somebody has a property right out there, you can always condemn it.
we? We can always what?
Well, I mean, you can condemn a property right, but then I don't know what your purpose is for condemning.
Because you're going to turn around and give him half
Right.
the alley.
Yeah, that's not very defensible in and of itself, so I have to think about that one. Alderman.
Okay.
Alderman Witcher, you finished?
Yes, sir, I just want to make my
Alderman
point.
Ross?
We probably discussed this, but when you abandon the alley, the property reverts to the owners? Is that the connecting landowners?
Yes.
And do we just like shut that alley off, or how do you?
That's normally the way that it's going to go. If you abandon an alleyway or a street or anything like that, it's going to go, the property's going to revert to the antecedent owners, which normally means the ones on either side of the street.
Down the middle.
Where their property would run to the middle of the street. Once you take away the easement, then they take to the center line. That was the case that they did in Monticello. They had a pipe stem street that ran between 2 houses, and the owners of the 2 houses were looking at each other saying, I don't need the street. Do you need the street? I don't need the street. Well, let's go get the city to abandon it, and we'll take to the middle of the street. At the end of the street was farmland that was fenced off. No one had ever accessed the property. Nobody had ever used the property. The city abandoned the street. The owner of the farm sued and prevailed before the Arkansas Supreme Court.
Without us going through the tiptoes of the legal nuances, I know that we could close half the alley. I think the major thing that we heard from the one person that came down here and supported it was traffic that goes back and forth.
True.
So my major interest is make sure that we don't have any, easements or anything, and I can't remember, since it's rocked on for so long, whether we've got issues with that. So is that in there about reserving easement rights?
It is. We have Section 2 says that our existing utility easements would remain unaffected, so we would preserve those easements. And I think that you can abandon a part of the easement that is not used and the landowner's consent, and that portion of the easement could be abandoned to stop pass-through traffic and still afford the property owner, his right to access the rear of his property through an alley.
Well, I know that my name is on this. I don't recall having visited with the gentleman who wanted this done, so, maybe it's in a file that y'all have. Maybe they talked to y'all, I'm not sure.
I think Robert's been in contact with him.
Robert, well then, again, I'm ready to go forward in a whole alley, half the alley, subject to your advice. So what I would suggest that we do is, absent you thinking otherwise, and if you do, let me know, that we get this back on for the next council meeting, because I finally had a chance to take a look at it, and I don't see any city purpose of any consequence that it stay open. With that, next item.
New business, Resolution 0946, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution confirming the appointment of Brett Russell to the North Little Rock Housing Authority Board of Commissioners.
Move for adoption.
Second.
On the motion.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
I don't see Brett here, but that's a continuation of a great family tradition. I think we all know Bob Russell, and Brett is his son, and the family continues in their high regard for public service, and we certainly appreciate Brett, which I understand is filling his father's shoes. With that, next item.
Resolution 0947, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution appointing Willie Elizondo to the unexpired term of Tina Worrell on the North Little Rock Veterans Memorial Advisory Committee.
Do I have a motion?
Move for adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
We had Tina Worrell is on that, and is going to be going into military duty, in fact, and will be will be on a longer assignment, so that's why we're asking that Willie be appointed. With that on the motion?
Ross? Yes. White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Resolution 0948, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement with Taggart Kearns Gray Architects Incorporated for architectural services on a new fire station to be located on property at Blaze Drive and Smitty Drive in the city of North Little Rock and appropriating funds.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Second, let me just mention, and I'm going to ask Michael Drake, and this might be a good time, even while we're on this agenda, to come up and make comments. There's about $210 million that's available for fire station construction nationwide, so that's not a great amount of money, but nevertheless, it's some money. And I'll go ahead and recognize Alderwoman Robinson in just a second. What I would like to do, and this is moving forward, but get the design and have it, actually go forward, or be prepared to go forward with a bid. We're asking them to design this for LEED's certification, which is an environmental design standards that accentuate sustainability and shepherding of the energy, which to me will, over time, certainly more than paid for the increased cost, somewhere between 5 and 10%. So we are going to look at this. Hopefully the council will adopt it, but in addition, you may find us bringing you more things that, while we may not be absolutely sure how to pay for them, one of the things that we are excited about in terms of our roundabout down at the end of Pike Avenue is that if we hadn't had that shovel ready, there's a good chance that we wouldn't be receiving, I believe, we're slated to receive somewhere around $1.29, $1.28 million because we have that project available and we don't have the funds to do it. So this may be start of what I hope is successful in us moving forward with having projects designed and on the shelf with the ability to bring it off the shelf real quickly. Alderwoman Robinson?
This is in Ward 2.
Absolutely.
And so Alderman Taylor and I were discussing, and if at all possible, we'd like to be added to this
It
legislation.
is possible, and we'd be proud to have y'all on as co-sponsors. So, Ms. Whitby, unless there's an objection, please add, Alderwoman Robinson as well as Taylor as co-sponsors.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and get this. Do we have a motion? Did we have a motion? All right, on the motion?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Let me I think all y'all know Michael Drake. Michael was the former manager of our Main Street program. That nonprofit is still alive, but the affiliation with the Main Street Arkansas is no longer. I assume we've taken care of that, or if not, we haven't, we're about to. I've asked Michael, in addition to keeping an eye on Main Street, and certainly a good part of their responsibility was dealing with the Smart House Way property, and we still are in the process of moving that project forward with the relocation of the power lines, which, let me just mention, while we've taken all the steps to relocate the power lines, the economy and our repayment of debt has caused me to want to slow that down a bit. I think that we've taken every step necessary prior to pulling the trigger and asking that the bids and specs go forward. We anticipate that project, I think, around $1 million. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Mr. Drake? And so rather than do something that we really don't know whether the thing will move forward like we want it to at this time, we're going to slow that down a little bit, knowing we've done everything necessary in order to do that, but yet and we've negotiated a new agreement with Energy that allows us up to 3 years to advertise and to bid to move those lines on the from where they are to the north side. So we're very mindful of that. We just don't want to go before it's time, and this may be in light of the economy before it's time. I've asked Michael to help us in working as a team that we have put together. A team obviously consists of the efforts that Michael's putting in terms of a variety of things. Todd Larson is a part of that. with regard to economic development. We have our our consultants, I guess if you want to put it that way, James Lee Witt and Associate, are working both locally and in Washington, as well as Finnegan and Associates that are grant writers. So, we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that this community has an opportunity to take advantage of the stimulus funds as well as other federal programs that are in all likelihood going to be moving forward at somewhat of a fast pace. So Michael, if you just take about 2 or 3 minutes. I know the White House under the leadership of the Vice President invited staff members from around the country to come to the White House last week. I asked Michael to attend on our behalf. He was up there with, if you'll give us a 5-minute report and summary, if you can hit the high points, and then we'll move on. So Michael represented us at the White House last week. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Good evening. Last week was an exhilarating experience for me, attending the White House, representing the city of North Little Rock, along with representatives from cities such as Los Angeles, Dallas, Detroit, Cleveland, Miami, Kansas City, St. Louis, and others. The Vice President was very candid with us and very straightforward that we are the ones who are responsible for his success. Don't let him down, because as you know, all government begins at the local level. And he implored us to make sure that we spend the money properly with the proper oversight and accountability so that he doesn't fail. I thought it was quite humorous that he put it in those terms. For your information, we are focusing our attention not only on the entitlement grants that we're receiving from CDBG, as well as the Energy Conservation and Efficiency Block Grant, which should be announced within the next 2 weeks, a block grant to the city of North Little Rock for a variety of energy-related purposes. But we're also focusing our attention on the competitive grants, including burn grants for things like youth mentoring throughout our community, the Capital Coalition Foundation for faith-based organizations, where there are $50 million in competitive grants, as well as a $400 million pool at the Department of Energy for competitive grants for innovative energy projects at states and counties. We're working closely with our Green Committee to put together a proposal, which I'm sure will come to you and then on to the federal government for those types of activities. So we're mobilized, we're outreaching to nonprofits and community-based organizations throughout North Little Rock to develop best practices and projects that we can submit to the federal government that will bring dollars back into our community and into the neighborhoods, both in the youth mentoring areas, in faith-based organizations, as well as these very attractive energy conservation grants. So our timeline is short. Our commitment is 100%. Both Todd Larson and I are working constantly to try to bring as many dollars to our community as we can, with the support of the council and, of course, with the mayor's leadership and all the department heads focused on this. We're confident we're going to be very successful. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them to the best of my ability tonight, keeping in mind that this is an evolving process, that even today the Department of Energy announced that they don't know yet what the grant regulations are going to be, even on our block grant for the energy conservation, but they hope to have them published within the next 2 weeks and the allocations announced.
We are going to do our best to stay on top of this. Now, even with these opportunities, we still have challenges we're working through on the operations side of our budget, and we're working with Mr. Sisson and others. So, those are some issues that remain, but at the same time, we've got some real opportunities, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure we're aware of it, and we're, letting folks know if there's a best practice or something that somebody sees another community may be doing. I know Alderman Witcher and I had a chance to be at the National League of Cities meeting. I want to underline to you that now is the time to reach out, and now is the time to not be timid. So, Mr. Drake, thank you. I don't see any questions. With that, next item.
RO 950, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution declaring certain buildings, houses, and other structures located at 601 West 25th Street in the city of North Little Rock to constitute a public nuisance, and condemning said structures, providing a period of time for property owner to abate said nuisance.
Let's get a motion, then I'll go ahead and conduct the public hearing. We've got
Move for
about
adoption.
7 or 8 of these.
Second.
And then after the public hearing, I'll adjourn it and call for a vote. Did I hear Alderman Height move for adoption? Yes, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Apparently, are we going to have a little road show here on this, Mr. Boyles, or is that why the lights have gone out? And
I
I think
believe,
they always have the pictures that are available.
okay, well, I didn't want to go too fast, though, if they're going to have some photos.
Mayor, there's only one property, new property for condemnation. The other resolutions are property we have already tore down, and we want to certify our liens for collection. So this will be, there only should
All right,
be
well,
one.
I'm going to go ahead and go forward. If you want to see any pictures, then fine. Motion made and seconded. I'm going to call a public hearing. This is for a condemnation for 601 West 25th Street. Listed owner is Wilbert Hobbs, 601 West 25th Street, and I think I'll direct you to the screen now that's showing some of the photos. Mr. Hobbs or anyone care to speak on that property? Public hearing is now open. Going once, going twice. Adjourn the public hearing on the motion.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
RO 951, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
Resolution certifying the amount of a cleanup lien to be filed with the Pulaski County Tax Collector against certain real property located at 323 North Plum Street in the city of North Little Rock.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Convene a public hearing on 1103, that's 1103 North I Street, in the amount of $2,091.93. The listed owner is Christina Bank and Trust Company. Excuse me?
No, RO 951 on
Oh,
323
I'm sorry,
North
looking
Plum.
at the wrong one. All right, let's take that back. Calling a public hearing on 323 North Plum Street. This is certifying a cleanup lien. The amount is $3,024.41. The listed owner is Marilyn Postel, P-O-S-T-E-L-L, and Michael Parks, P-A-R-K-S. Convene a public hearing. Anyone here that wants to speak to the council on this? Adjourn the public hearing and call a roll.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Resolution 0952, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution certifying the amount of a cleanup lien to be filed with the Pulaski County Tax Collector against certain real property located at 1103 North I Street in the city of North Little Rock.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Convene a hearing on 1103 North I Street in the amount of $2,091.93. The listed owner is Christina Bank and Trust, owner, trustee of the National Security Funding Trust. Going once, going twice. Adjourn the public hearing on the motion.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Resolution 0953, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution certifying the amount of a cleanup lien to be filed with the Pulaski County Tax Collector against certain real property located at 808 North F Street in the city of North Little Rock.
Get a motion?
Move for adoption.
Second.
Call a public hearing on 808 North F Street, the lien in the amount of $2,395. The listed owner is Alice Young, care of Melissa Bedford Goudry, G-U-I-D-R-Y. Public hearing's open. Going once, going twice. Adjourn the public hearing. Call the roll.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Resolution 0954, Mayor Hayes.
Please call
A
it.
resolution certifying the amount of a cleanup lien to be filed with the Pulaski County Tax Collector against certain real property located at 3115 Gribble Street in the city of North Little Rock.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Calling a public hearing on 3115 Gribble Street. The lien in the amount of $2,891.15. The listed owner is Leroy Yancey, care of Lisa Hamilton. Public hearing's open. Going once, going twice. Adjourn the public hearing. Call the roll.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Resolution 0955, Mayor Hayes.
Please call
A
it.
resolution certifying the amount of a cleanup lien to be filed with the Pulaski County Tax Collector against certain real property located at 901 North D Street in the city of North Little Rock.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Calling a public hearing on 901 North D Street and certifying a lien in the amount of $2,462.89. The listed owner is Charles Squall, S-Q-U-A-L-L, Hearing is open. Adjourn the hearing, call the roll.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Resolution 0956, Mayor Hayes.
Please call
A
it.
resolution certifying the amount of a cleanup lien to be filed with Pulaski County Tax Collector against certain real property located at 3516 Sycamore Street in the city of North Little Rock.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Calling a public hearing on 3516 Sycamore Street, certifying a lien in the amount of $1,812.86. Listed owner is Catherine Keller Williams. Public hearing is open. Adjourn the public hearing, call the roll.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Resolution 0957, Mayor Hayes.
Please call
A
it.
resolution certifying the amount of a cleanup lien to be filed with Pulaski County Tax Collector against certain real property located at 1716 Chandler Street in the city of North Little Rock.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Call a public hearing on 1716 Chandler Street, certifying a lien in the amount of $5,098.16. The listed owner is David R. Edgecombe, Edgecombe, Combe. My public hearing is open. During the public hearing, call the roll.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Resolution 0958, Alderman Gaines and Baggett.
Please call it.
A resolution accepting the low bid and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Burkhalter Technologies Incorporated for drainage, street, and sidewalk improvements, Augusta Street, Parkway to 47th, 34th year 2008 and 35th year 2009 CDBG programs in the amount of $145,962.46.
Move for adoption.
Second.
On the motion.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Ordinances, ordinance 0920, Mayor Hayes.
Please read it.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 7697, the North Little Rock zoning ordinance, first reading.
Mr. Voyles, let's go ahead and take it to second reading. I don't intend to call that for a vote tonight. Mr. Voyles, come on up and just give us a little bit of an entree of what this is, but let's see if we can take it to second reading. Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion to suspend the rules?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
No.
Okay, I don't intend to move it too fast, so if, if Alderman Richard or anybody else wants me to,
Call for a public hearing.
yeah, well, that's what I'm gonna do for next council meeting, to have it on this, as well as, Alderman Gaines's legislation with regard to, the sign ordinance. I think this is what you were talking about.
I believe it is.
If I'm not mistaken, so.
Well, that's,
With that, Mr. Voyles, give us a little, hit the high notes and let us know what this is.
The Planning Commission, over the last few months, has been reviewing a variety of proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance. Some of those are based on some state law that we have regulating adult entertainment. They also added the sections that we've recently amended for our parking ordinance and a variety of other things that we placed into the zoning ordinance to make the document more complete. For instance, the electronic fences was added. That wasn't in the zoning before, and that's come up. We've added a section under the sign ordinance. We adopted the overlays for the 3 streets in the city, allowing 10-foot tall monument signs. The sign code allows 6-foot tall, so we've recommended making those consistent at 10 foot. So it went through a wide variety of items. Lots of definitions were changed, and then we added some of the permitted uses that have come up. We tried to reduce the number of uses going to more generic terms, and then we've had questions come up, so that we're going back to adding more, such as dental school, barber school, food carts, mobile businesses in right-of-way, recording studios, assembly halls, microbreweries, and convenience stores with pumps. Those were things that we tried to, we had reduced in the old zoning ordinance and were added back in this review. We did a couple things that were, I think, helpful. One was the intensity of signage. We went out at night and measured the brightness of some of the new LED signs that are coming on. And we measured that with the sign completely turned off, with getting the ambient light, and then we had the sign come on at different intervals, and we determined what appeared to be obnoxiously bright at night when it's fully bright. So we have that encoded, and we've got some direction from the national firm on how to do that. So after we verified that measurement, we've included that into the new ordinance as a procedure for how we determine what brightness means. We went through we deleted the Residential Design Review Board, as all those cases are being directed to the Board of Adjustment for variance. We added the parking in the historic districts. We gave some more specifics to, we have an extraterritorial expansion underway, and that'll be something that'll be coming soon to you. One of the concerns of the people in the outlying areas was protection of existing farming operations. We've added some definitions of farming and also defining that farming is allowed except where it's in violation of city ordinances that are currently in the municipal code. We've made the sidewalks consistent with the subdivision regulations. We reduced the number of sidewalks required in industrial areas, so that's amended to be the same as the subdivision ordinance. And then there was the debate about the time of signage. The Planning Commission, there was a discussion going to no restriction of time and all the way to leaving things as they are. The Planning Commission voted to go to that 5-second interval, and we do believe that is better than going to no time restriction to avoid the flashing lights and the total movement that would be coming with that. The LED signs are coming on board. People are buying those, and we'll see more of them, but we can regulate how commercial speech is controlled in the area, and 5 seconds would allow more time of messages to be displayed on some of our arterials, but still not allow that flashing and the full movement that you're going to have. Go ahead.
Do I have any, from legal, do we have any free speech issues with regard to 5, 10, 15, unlimited? Is that something that is, something that pretty much at the discretion of the council?
I don't think that's a free speech issue. I think as long as signs are allowed, there are, reasonable allowances to have signs of some nature, then I don't see a First Amendment implication.
Alderwoman Robinson.
Well, we're not going to vote on this tonight?
No.
Okay, because I have a real problem with W. So that's the changeable copy signs, intervals from 15 seconds to 5. So, I would rather stay at 15. So.
What I would suggest, and I'm going to turn it over, is we're not going to vote on this tonight, and we'll have a public hearing, and if there appears to be any reason to hold it over an additional time, I don't know that, Mr. Boyles, we have any reason to hurry this up. So, I just ask that it be taken to second reading just in case. But, we're not in any hurry. We'll hold a public hearing. And if there are parts of it that you don't think you like, then I would suggest we make motions to strike, to amend, to move back, whatever you might want to do, since this is a little bit more comprehensive. Alderman Height and then Alderman Witcher.
First of all, in Section E, Seems like I remember the night that we, as the city council, I think it was when we put in the sign overlay district on Broadway, that did we not establish the height of monument signs at 10?
We did.
We did.
At 10 foot
That's
on Broadway?
right. That's correct.
But the rest of the city is at 6 feet, is that correct?
Right. Previously, we had monuments limited to 6-foot height. We went to 10 foot on Broadway because you were saying no more pole signs.
Right.
And you approved 10 foot. Now we have Camp Robinson and JFK are also overlay districts, and they have 10 foot. So it's hard to say that in one part of the city, on Camp Robinson, or I mean on Maumelle Boulevard, you have to be 6 foot, when on these overlays, which are more
Overlay
restrictive,
districts have been modernized to 10 foot, is that correct?
they've been allowed 10 foot.
That's what was my recollection. Do you recall the vote of the planning commission on that, moving the height from 6 to 10 feet? Do you recall? You don't happen to have that in
No,
your
I think
notes, do you?
they were saying, let's make it consistent, and they were pretty much in agreement. It
Or
ought
was
to
it
be one or the
unanimous?
other.
Was it unanimous that they wanted to make it consistent?
I believe that point was unanimous.
Okay, all right. The second question is has to do with amending the electronic changes from 15 seconds to 5 seconds. I too am opposed to that. Do you recall the discussion at the planning commission and what the vote was on that
Right.
issue?
We had about 3 members that want no controls at all. I mean, they won't allow any movement to 0. And we had others that wanted to keep things, or a minority wanted to keep things as they were, and the final consensus was to agree to a compromise of 5 seconds.
Yeah. I'm thinking that one of the reasons that Alderman Gaines didn't want to pull, didn't want to vote on his ordinance tonight was that I think there's a consensus on this council that wants to leave it at 15 seconds as opposed to changing it to 5 seconds. That's just my outward thoughts on that.
We might be a little short right now, votes.
All right, excuse me, Alderman Witcher. Okay, I thank both Ms. Robinson and Mr. Hyatt for publicly indicating their support for not changing the copy signs. There are many, many reasons, and I'm not going to go into all of them tonight, but one of the questions I want to pose to Mr. Carter, since you had asked the question regarding restraint of speech, is regarding, and I'm going to do some supposes. Suppose this council votes to run the signs at 5 seconds, and a subsequent council comes back and says, we can't live with this, we're going to 15 or 30 seconds. What type of ramifications do you foresee in that type of movement?
Well, I think you'd be in a situation, one of two situations. One is all those signs that run shorter times would be grandfathered. If they were not grandfathered, I'll let the sirens pass.
Go to the siren.
If they were not grandfathered, the city may be in a situation where they would have to purchase those signs in order to shorten the time. There'd be some, allegations of taking involved. At one point in time, there was a legal concept of amortization regarding the use of signs. In other words, once you got the commercial life out of it, then they could be brought into conformance. Because of some court cases that came down, legislation was passed through our state legislature where amortization is no longer a method of compensating for signs. So when someone spends a lot of money on a sign, and a lot of the signs that we're talking about cost a lot of money, and they do so with the expectation to show a quantity of copy, and then you deprive them of the ability to show that quantity of copy, then you may have to compensate them for the economic value that they've lost from the sign.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carter. All right, and I don't mean to belabor this, but to further my point, Robert, you've had some major sign companies come to you with what type of requests for signs?
Well, we're constantly getting requests for signs. We've had a couple requests for some LED billboards recently. We have a billboard ordinance that has a permit bank We've had last week we had requests on Broadway for re-erection of signs after the widening of Broadway, and we're in the middle of some of that. Those are non-conforming signs. One had been damaged. The pole was broken by storm. The poster was on the ground, and that sign was ordered, and they were trying to get a permit for that, but their permit bank prohibits any creation of new signs. One sign, the state had purchased the sign, and they were trying to get a permit for that. But we'll be getting more requests for signs, especially the LED signs. That seems to be the coming thing.
Okay. All right, so, so where, so you'll know where I'm going with this thought. Nationally, they're going to streaming billboard signs. A good example of this would be the sign in Sherwood before you get off, or right in that area where you get off to go to Sam's if you're going north on the interstate. And that is what our future will be. And I guess part of what concerns me so much is not very simply Mr. Gaines wanting to help the church in Levy, and and that's commendable, and I understand that because they have an investment. But what we will be discussing will be our policy or our public policy regarding whether we want streaming signs at some point in time. And when I say streaming, that's like the news on a signboard, and whether we want that up and down Main Street and in any other business areas in our community. I mean, that's where it's going, and that's what it's going to be if we make these major changes.
Let me ask one quick question for our city attorney, and then I'll recognize Alderman Baggett. Because I've heard and or read about disputes with regard to the safety issue in terms of whether shorter signs in terms of time limit produce greater, likelihood of accidents. I've heard different opinions on that. But let's assume that we do go to 5 seconds again, in keeping with what Alderman Witcher asked.
No.
And let's assume, that we start having an accident a week there. And then we decide, because of the safety of our citizens, we need to extend that. Are you saying that even in light of that issue, we may be having to buy a sign?
If you wanted to shorten the time of that sign that's motivating you, that you believe is causing accidents, I still think that you'd have to compensate the sign owner.
So you're saying that if we shorten it to 5 seconds, and then we find accidents increase significantly, then we want to go back to 10 or 15, that we may be in a position of having some liability. Okay.
Unless you just grandfather the signs. I mean, that's one thing that can be done. Right.
Okay. Alderman Baggett, and then Alderman Ross.
Only if we, though.
Mayor, if you believe that the United States military is doing a good job, and they do a good, safe job, their LED signs going onto their base are set at 3 seconds, and they have 2 of them going into Camp Robinson there that change every 3 seconds. Also, at the next city council, we'll have some people here that will give some reports on Small Business Association and things like that, that'll tell about safety and things like that. So, and there is some room for some compromise here as far as putting these LED signs in residential areas and things like that, maybe just on main thoroughfares and things like that. So, don't shut us down before you hear all the evidence.
Alderwoman Ross, and then Alderwoman Robinson.
Oh, okay. We can get off the signs because I think we're on this, but mine is, what is a Class 6 local street?
We have a variety of classes. Let me try to remember what they were.
What I'm looking at is on page 15 under T, number 4, where you struck out.
That's like a residential street or a non-major street. We have on our master street plan the local streets, arterials, collectors, principal arterials, freeways. So they have those classes, and the smaller the number, the more important the street. But
Okay, this is where sidewalks shall be required as followed, and on this, it says, on number 4, on Class 6 local streets, the developer shall have the option of locating sidewalks adjacent to the curb. So when you strike, you know, in this, it has a strikeout on Class 6. So is that giving the developer anywhere in the city the right to put the sidewalk adjacent to the curb?
Well, the strikeout means we're deleting that wording, and then we're adding the wording below it. So what this does is that it's reducing the sidewalk requirement in industrial subdivisions. Sidewalks are required on both sides of local, collector, and arterial streets. So people don't know what the class means, so we just went to the name.
Well, this is just concerning where to place it as far as adjacent to the curb. That was what I was questioning.
Okay.
Because that's very dangerous. I don't like sidewalks next to the curb.
Right.
It's very dangerous.
And the regional standard, I think, requires a buffer zone, but we have in cases like Pike Avenue, they have a 6-foot sidewalk. The state preferred those back in the 90s for maintenance purposes, but required at least a 6-foot sidewalk when you are against the curb. But I understand what you're saying.
I mean, the way that this reads, it seems like anywhere,
Well, an internalized means 15 foot away from the moving traffic. You could accept that as a sidewalk, a way for people to go through a shopping center that's not right next to the traffic.
Okay. We'll talk about this later.
Okay.
Now I'm on to something else. No, wait, I'm not through though.
Like on North Park Mall, we have a sidewalk that goes up along the front of the mall and can come back out. But there's that large ditch there along JFK. So that would be an example.
By striking this Class 6, though, that does
It's
not...
just saying, instead of saying Class 6, let's say arterial street.
Okay.
That's all that means.
But by saying local street, so this does not give developers the right to put sidewalks adjacent to the curb all over the city. That's what you're telling me.
That's correct. The regional standard requires a buffer zone, and our traffic engineer and city engineer are very strongly opposed to those, any more of them. They are a little more dangerous. If it's a slow volume street, I mean, the danger is not as great on a lot of our local streets, but they still prefer a buffer zone.
Okay. My other question, all this in here concerning parking, and we hashed this parking thing to
Right,
death.
that's just inserting all of that you adopted into the zoning ordinance so that it's in one place because we distribute this book.
Okay, so
So
that's...
everything you did previously is in here now.
is exactly what, everything that
Right.
we did? Okay, I think there's one thing, though, I want to check on that. Okay, wait, I got more.
Okay,
Oh, I'm not through, wait,
You
I have one more.
finished?
Nope. Oh, what is a residentially zoned district? What do you consider that?
Neighborhood, R1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, then the flashing signs and everything that we're talking about, are those allowed in a residential neighborhood?
Yes.
So right now, a church, because all the churches most of the churches are in residential neighborhoods, so they could have a sign out there going every 5 seconds changing in my bedroom window, right?
Yes, the church signs are allowed a sign, and when you approve a sign for one, you're generally approving it for all. It's very hard to say you can do it a different way down the street than you can, because someone,
So can we ban these in residentially zoned districts?
It'd be very difficult to do, because most of the residential districts have a border area that can see the commercial district. So when you say that, it's, maybe you need to say within 300 feet away, but those that are living next to a residential or a commercial district are going to see all that. So you'd be shutting down all the signage on a major street.
Well, I'm just thinking, some of the churches, they've gotten so large and they've been in the neighborhood now that, if they could possibly be in the
I think we could
neighborhoods.
ask our city attorney. I think that's a good question, because I can see where this thing could come back and certainly bite us, particularly when you have these large signs that are in residential neighborhoods, and
I don't want one flashing in my window.
I would think that we ought to take a look at that as to whether we could exclude them for residential zones.
We do have smaller signs allowed in residential districts, but once we approve changing of copy,
then it's going to be...
I mean, this is a local, signage is a local adopted code. It's not,
Right.
you're not adopting a national standard. So you can make all the modifications you want. Conway has gotten very restrictive. No LEDs in town, only on the freeway service station signs. I mean, it's at a point you're going too far.
That we could, but I mean, in the overlay districts, though, we could not have them in the overlay districts, right?
The LED signs? If you put it in there, you certainly could, yes.
Deal, okay.
Mayor.
Okay, just a second. Right now, it's Alderwoman Robinson and then Alderwoman White.
Thank you. M21, when it says amend to change automobile outdoor sales lot from conditional use to allowed by right, does that mean that the automobiles will, a use for an automobile would no longer go before planning? That if it's already zone C4 or C5 or I1 and it's vacant gravel, they could just put an automobile there?
The Planning Commission has required a review of all the new car lots that have happened when they have a change of ownership on Broadway. They've suggested that that's something that's not been produced to be helpful, but they're suggesting we make that a by right use. I mean, without a conditional review. Right now, everything that's a new business has to come before you for a conditional review, and you can attach conditions to that.
I think that, fellow aldermen, I think that we really need to look at that. And speaking on behalf of Ward 2, the majority of the zoning in Ward 2 is C4 and I1, and we'll just become Automobile Central.
Not if one council member has something to do with it, we won't.
Possibly not.
Alderwoman White?
Okay, this is in G, the electric fences.
Yes. They're prohibited in the municipal code.
Right.
So we keep getting these questions, and they're still prohibited.
Okay, the underground invisible fencing that they use in, I know that they have that in city areas. I know they're mostly electronic, but they're still in the electric fence category.
Well, they're not dangerous to any passersby,
But
only
people-
if you're wearing a collar would it shock you.
So those are still, those would still be allowed?
Right, that's not a hazard to the general public. But this is something that, you see, we tried to go through the whole book and think of things. You can come up with all kinds of ideas, but there's no emergency on this.
Okay, wait a minute, Alderman Gaines?
Jason, I'm sorry, I'm confused a little bit, but we'll work this out the next time. But I thought either you or Robert had told me that our legislation for LCDs would not affect churches in residential areas like Central Baptist or Lakewood Methodist, that would only affect businesses or churches in, or one of you two. So what we're saying.
I'm blaming Robert.
Okay.
Robert
See, I like that? Just right under the bus. No, honestly, I don't remember.
Can you find out for sure then, or can somebody?
Yeah, 'cause
that's not our intent with our legislation, is to affect other churches or other. I can just see a flashing sign at Lakewood Methodist or a huge at Central Baptist. This is only just a little legislation to help a little church and try to do something like that. Just trying to help, not get barbecued. Robert?
Well,
we'll have to talk later, Robert. Thank you.
Depends on which kind of barbecue that we like. Alderwoman Ross.
Well, there's just one more, this allowing convenience stores as a permitted right in a C2.
Right, C2 is the neighborhood shopping.
Right.
Or neighborhood.
So currently, what are convenience stores in by right, a C3?
I believe it was listed C3, C4, 5, 6.
So you're dropping
the
it
higher
down
types.
one. Why?
I believe the older zoning ordinance had convenience stores in the C2, and we made it more restrictive in the 2005 edition. There's not a lot of C2, but it is neighborhood commercial, and so place to buy gas and milk is
This is one with no fuel pumps by right.
Right.
So,
It's like a neighborhood shop.
like a neighborhood market or something. Okay.
C1 is professional office, that's not a retail establishment, but C2 is a neighborhood shopping thing.
Okay, that's good. Save the
Alderman
rest for
Witcher.
later.
It's not on the sign. All right, Robert, if I may ask you, you and I had a discussion about zoning pertaining to farms or farming within the community, and I don't see that
Okay,
in this.
we have, under definitions, we have added the definition of what is farming, and then on page 14, regulation of all districts, S, farming is permitted in all districts, however, the authority shall not be valid defense in violation of other ordinance regulating things that y'all said you do not allow.
Okay.
And that is to protect people who are currently farming and are afraid that our zoning might stop their operations. And that's not our intent. We're trying to get ahead of development and allow urban areas, our normal expansion easterly, and allow, farming is a sustainable practice in the eastern area as long as it's not offensive to the neighbors, should be allowed to continue.
While I applaud you on adding farming, I still remember the battle of the chickens over in the 3rd Ward, and I have no desire to fight that battle again with roosters crowing, waking folks up.
Okey-doke. Without seeing anybody else wanting to comment, we'll hold that. Next item.
I still need to read it the second time.
All right.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 7697, the North Little Rock zoning ordinance, second reading, and now it's held.
Now we'll hold it.
Okay.
Next item.
00921, Mayor Hayes.
Okay, go ahead and call it.
An ordinance amending Section 2-48 of the North Little Rock Municipal Code regarding calling special meetings of the City Council, first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place it on second reading.
On the motion.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines? Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance amending Section 2-48 of the North Little Rock Municipal Code regarding calling of special meetings of the City Council, second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place it on its third reading.
Second.
On the motion.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines? Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance amending Section 2-48 of the North Little Rock Municipal Code regarding calling of special meetings of the City Council, third and final reading.
On the question.
Mayor,
I'm sorry.
before we do that,
Okay.
could either you or Mr. Carter explain to the public what we're doing?
Okay, Mr. Carter, go ahead.
Absolutely. What we've done, this proposed a change to our rules regarding notice of special meetings. And the strike-throughs and underlines kind of indicate where we're making the changes. Previously, it just says you get 24 hours notice. I mean, that was the only rule that was in effect. This changes the rule to make 3 subsections. One is for personal delivery within 24 hours, or 24 hours prior to the meeting, personal delivery by a police officer, handing you the documents to be considered at the special meeting. A second method of notice by transmitting the special call to you via email with 72 hours prior notice. And then the third method would be one that we've kind of relied on, I guess, since I've been here, that if we couldn't effectuate notice, if somebody was gone, they're not here, they didn't have access to email, we could give them a phone call and say, do you mind if we're having the special call? And it shows that they have the authority to waive this. So that's something that we considered implied, but now would be express within our rules. It specifically says that if there's no notice, if there's a failure of notice to the members of City Council, then the special meeting can't be held, and that we're going to preserve evidence of notification in the record. Also, with the comment from Alderman Height last time, there's a subsection included that says, regardless of the method of service, a printed copy of any and all proposed ordinances and resolutions to be considered shall be placed on each member's desk prior to the special meeting. So you'll have a hard copy sitting there waiting on you for the special meeting.
Thank you.
Alderman Ross?
We also discussed as far as email, which I think is great, as far as getting a reply, how do we plan on doing that? I mean, because you email it, you don't necessarily know if they received it.
Right.
So how, do we need to amend something into Section 2 with your 72 hours prior to the meeting?
Right, and well, and part of the issue with that is what's acceptable evidence. You know, what's going to be evidence that's acceptable to the council. This is a rule that you govern yourselves with, you know, for special meetings. Whatever evidence that you believe is necessary to document that notification was made, if there needs to be a receipt that it was sent to the server, a read receipt, you know, you can attach all those in Outlook and it'll automatically send back to you when it was opened. But what notice should we consider in the city to be good enough before we dispatch a police officer to go and try to find somebody? I guess that's the $10 million question is, at what point do I consider notice good enough before I'm going to dispatch a police officer?
Do we need that in here? That's what I'm saying. Does that need to be defined? I don't.
Well, and you can if you want to. I mean, certainly you can define it. If you don't define it, I'm going to take whatever evidence I've got and I'm going to submit that. And you're either going to call it good enough or you're not. Now,
well, I guess
it would make
let me just offer a couple examples. So you get an email and 10 minutes later you're asking Jason questions about it and you say, you know, I've got it.
Sure.
Or you reply, and you've got it. You know, I mean, we can define it, but I think that there needs to be, and then you might want to put, you know, in there some evidence of receipt, because I can see different ways that, you know, you may be acknowledging it other than just hitting your reply button and doing that. I don't know that there would be ever, you know, the only other thing I can think of in terms of hitting a reply button is sometimes, you know, if you've got some volume as an attachment, you don't want to reply, you know, because of such a voluminous, you know, response that the city attorneys get. So, I mean, I would think, Jason, that, you know, the city attorney's office will acknowledge some, you know, some evidence of receipt, whether it be an email, whether it be a phone call, whether it be a call to our office, whether it be, you know, whatever it might be. If you want to put that in there, I think that might be implied but not expressed. Now,
I guess, are you just saying an affirmative act? Any affirmative act on the part of the...
that'd be my thought, but...
Well, I mean, just because you someone opened it doesn't mean that you necessarily got it. I know some people in their house, you know, more than one person may use the email account or whatever and accidentally, you know, I don't know.
Well, I think, you know, there's going to have to be a certain amount of good faith, and that is, I mean, you know, who's to say that my wife wouldn't get on my email account and respond saying, right. You know, so I mean, I think some evidence of receipt that indicates that the council member received it, you know, would be proof absent contradiction.
Right. But mine is, when does Jason know to send out a policeman to find us?
Well, that's the big question, because if we send something out on Friday afternoon and I don't hear anything back, you know, if I come in Monday morning, well, that's too late.
Right. Let me tell you what I'm going to do, and then, you know, each of us, you know, could have, if it's something that we just missed on a Tuesday deadline, and it's something that we're going to, you know, that I don't know that's going to be very controversial, you know, simply an action that we think is going to be somewhat of a regular agenda item, then I'm probably going to try it by email to save time for a police officer. But if I think it's something that some council member, I want to make darn sure that they've got it, a TIF district that we happen to file late, or something that's going to be potentially, you know, sensitive, we'll say, then I'm going to send it out by police officers.
Okay.
So, I mean, and obviously each of you, you know, the way that we have opportunities to call special meetings is the mayor can call a special meeting, or 3 council members, you know, combined can call a special meeting. So I think it would be somewhat incumbent on whoever's calling it to have some comfort level, depending on the sensitivity of the legislation, as to, you know, whether that's or not that's going to be an issue. So that's almost a sponsor's call as to how they do it. and to ensure that they have a comfort level. If it's very sensitive, you know, they can give direction on how they think notice ought to be done. Now, that would be my thinking.
So can we just put, like, if we haven't replied within 24 hours or 48 hours, or, I still think that we need to just, I mean, you'd say got it, whatever, you know, just acknowledge that you received it. I mean, when you tested it, isn't that pretty much what everyone did? Did you get a response from
I got an affirmative response from
everybody? Okay.
I got an affirmative response from everybody.
You got an affirmative response from someone who purported that they were emailing on behalf of the council member, but you don't know whether or not, you know, out there. I mean, the only way that you really could get a actual confirmation is by either a verbal and assuming you're talking to somebody, or by sending it certified, signed receipt, return receipt requested, you know, and having a signature on there that you could potentially later approve. And so, you know, I don't think what we're trying to do, again, each of us have the opportunity to choose how we do it if 3 council members are going to get together. If it's an extremely sensitive matter, you know, I would think then it would be incumbent. Like, I'm going to call down and, you know, if we want to try to do it one way, I'm going to call down and find out, you know, initially whether or not, you know, who all responded. And if one person didn't respond, you know, I'm not going to sit and wait around to see it. I'm going to get a police officer to go out and deliver it. So, you know, the one who's the caller of the special meeting, whether it be me or whether it be the 3 council members, and then also depending on the sensitivity of it, you know, I'm going to make darn sure that I know that I'm satisfied that issue is not one that's outstanding. And if we do it by email, and I'm extremely concerned, then I'll pick up the phone, or I'll have Jason pick up the phone and verbally talk to each of you.
Okay, so.
And normally, that's what, whenever we've had special calls, I mean, modus operandi has been to try to call everybody and let you know, hey, this is coming, you know, to let you know it's coming. You know, we're not trying to slide one by somebody.
Well, no,
I mean, we want police officers to be able to serve you when we're using police officers, and we want the email to reach you, you know, whenever we're going to email out a special call.
I just want to make sure, when you send it, you have record and you're covered, right?
Right.
Okay. That's, as long as you've got a system
Well, and then
worked
again,
out,
I
and you
want
know
to caution everybody, because I do it more often than anybody else, but and so, you know, like I said, I can tell you what I'm going to do, and that is, I'm going to make sure if it's routine, then I'm going to, you know, say to everybody, respond. If it's more than routine and somebody hadn't responded, or even if I'm extremely concerned about it, you know, and I think somebody might be litigating it later, you know, then I'm going to have a police officer do it. It's just that simple.
Well, I'd ask if for special calls, if we're going to be able to make notification by email, the best bet for us is to try to get it out on Thursday. It gives everybody an opportunity to respond back, let me know that you got it, and then if we're having trouble getting email through, then we could send a police officer out on Friday. Would probably be the best bet.
But that still doesn't guarantee that we're at home.
Well, Adobe Acrobat Reader 9 has the capability of doing electronic signature, so you may want to look into that. You can send it electronically. The receiver has to put in the password that's been given to them. You check a box, acknowledge that you know that this has been signed electronically, and then you can verify that yes, all of these people did sign, that they've received it, and you're all done. We're at the Realtors Association. We're doing contracts electronically, so.
We are too, but our country.
Right. Again, I think we can make this so difficult that we won't ever do it, and that's not the purpose. The purpose is to try to, you know, reduce what may be non-controversial, reasonably routine, you know, sort of things that timing-wise we need to address or want to address. So,
and that's kind of why I didn't specify those things that we're discussing right now. It's because I feel like we're going to try to work through those as we go.
I mean, you know, at one point we were really concerned about signatures being on every item, but, you know, as we looked at the law indicated that, you know, that actual notice was sufficient, and, you know, I may very well be speaking to a council member and say, did you get it? And the answer is yes, and if they're out of town, they can't actually sign what we used to circulate around in terms of acknowledging the notice, and that we've held to be sufficient, which it is. Where are we, Ms. Whitby?
Been read 3 times.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt?
No, sir.
Let's get a motion to adopt on third
So
and final
moved.
again. Is there a second? On the motion to adopt on third and final, Mrs. Whitby?
Ross? Yes. White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
On the emergency, Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Ordinance 0922, Alderman Taylor.
I'd like to add Alderman Robinson as a co-sponsor, and please call it.
This is an ordinance granting a conditional use to allow a farmer's market in a C6 zone for certain real property located at 512 North Main Street in the city of North Little Rock. First reading.
Move to suspend the rules, place on the second reading.
Second.
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance granting a conditional use to allow a farmer's market in a C6 zone for certain real property located at 512 North Main Street in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules, place on the third reading.
Second.
On the motion.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance granting a conditional use to allow a farmer's market in a C6 zone for certain real property located at 512 North Main Street in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. Third and final reading.
Question.
Alderman Height, and Mr. Harden, why don't you come up so we can see you and help give you a little advertising at this point? Go ahead and ask your question.
Mr. Harden, last year when you had your farmer's market, you limited it to producers of Arkansas produce.
Yes, sir.
Now you're opening it up to everybody, is that correct?
No.
Or is it going to be the same?
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely. We've just grown our farmer base to who knows what already.
Okay, it just wasn't listed under any of the conditions. I was just, does that need to be added?
What?
Does that need to be added to this, or are you going?
No.
As a condition to the existing farmers market that it be mandated, we have only local producers, is that what you're saying?
No.
Well, that's the core of that's our mission of our organization, to protect that. So I don't think it needs to be mandated.
I'm fine.
But thank you for asking us.
All right. While you're up here, before we go ahead and call it on third and final, why don't you tell us a little bit of what you're doing and what our plans are for not only our farmers market this year, when we anticipate opening, but obviously for our about-to-be grocery store as we work toward that opening. Give us a little update.
About 60 seconds, or?
Sure, help yourself. No, we're
just kidding.
interested in grocery store downtown, a lot of us.
Oh, I'd love to tell you. I need to tell everybody what's going on. This is really a big project, and we're doing everything we can to make it the most outstanding community grocery store that North Little Rock's ever seen. And there's 2 things going on we're trying to coordinate, is moving the market down to the corner of 5th or 6th and Main Street, and then opening up our new Argenta market across the street, which we hope will have the Argenta market open April 18th when we start the farmers market the first day of the season on the same Saturday, to coincide with 11,000 tulips that are going to be down here, to make it quite an event to draw people down and maintain that intensity every Saturday throughout 6 months of the growing season, hopefully. And that would we think it's going to be really big this year. We up to maybe 30 or so farmers. Half of them are experienced, the other half are new and excited because they heard about how great our market was last year. So we're kind of incorporating that, and ADC has helped us to brand and create a logo for the Certified Arkansas Farmers Market. And it's really going to be a statewide branding campaign, with the headquarters being here in Argenta and really promoting this community. And we've had a great success thanks to the City Council. It's truly a model program that you guys have worked with us on, and y'all are just seeing the beginning stages of what this could be in a couple of years, how it could draw so much commerce to our downtown area. But with the store, our store is going to have a bakery, and it's going to have a really nice coffee shop. We're going to have a deli, a salad bar. We have the only pasta machine in Arkansas that we know of, and it's truly a unique niche product that we're going to make fresh pasta every day. We've hired one of the most a very well-known chef, put it that way. He's executive chef with Simply the Best. His name was Shane Henderson, and we're really proud he can handle a pretty intense workload, coming from a very old local catering company. So with all that, we're going to have a produce department, salad bar, smokehouse out back that's kind of a small scale but screened in so that we can do, all of our meats are going to be local meats, our grains. I mean, we'll have over 50% of our products will be from local farmers in our market. And not the farmers market, it's 100% local. Our Argenta market will be 50% is my internal policy that we're trying to maintain. So that's pretty good.
April 18th, right?
April 18th.
April 18th. And
Right.
remind me of the hours again?
Okay, we're going to be Tuesday and Saturday again this year. The fair trade bell will ring at 7 o'clock. No trading or selling before 7. And the bell rings to close the market at 12 o'clock, and there's no selling or trading after 12 o'clock. So.
But you can move across the street to the regular market then after
And I will
12
be
o'clock.
open all afternoon. Yes.
And what are your hours going to be on your regular market?
We're thinking 7:30 in the morning till about 7:30, 8 at night right now, but we're open for some suggestions too. Yes, sir.
Questions, Alderman Baggett?
All the fresh fish and the cheeses and all that, you've got about all that?
Yeah, that's what we're working on right now. We've got great cheeses. We're going to be smoking cheeses. We're making our own mozzarella. We're the only place around we know that makes fresh mozzarella with local milk, and it's truly delicious. I think it'll be a big hit. Yes, sir.
Okay, Mayor. Mr. Harden, my name is Murray Witcher, and I'm going to tell you on the front end that Mr. Height and I are both jealous of the Second Ward having your store in that area.
We got it going on.
Now, I will tell you, all right, on the trip last week, I visited the Northeast Market, which is in the Capitol Hill area, and they have a website. And at some point in time, if you have an opportunity, I would encourage you to go over there and look at it. It follows along the same lines as what Mr. Harden is going to do downtown. It is an exciting place on Saturday mornings with opportunities to sell produce, and of course at the Northeastern Market they sell clothing and plants and other items, other food items that are grown locally. We have an absolutely wonderful opportunity, and I took a lot of photographs that I'm going to bring back to y'all at some point in time and show you regarding the possibilities for things that we can do in that area to really make the area a first-class area. So,
We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jody, and we're excited about season number 2, April 18th, right? April
right.
18th.
That's
Everybody
the
get
big
your
date.
grocery sack. We encourage you to bring your own. We've got a lot of fun things that are going to happen. What else is happening besides the farmers markets coming back and your grocery store opening on April 18th?
Well, that's all I can think of. The 11,000 tulips are going to draw a lot of people.
11,000
I think.
tulips. I knew there was something you said about 11,000. So
Yeah, that's going to draw a lot of people.
please enjoy. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at our flower beds along Main Street, but they are exceptional, and we sure are appreciative of our partnership with the Argenta Downtown Council, and we look forward to continuing to have that kind of color in our community, along with homegrown fruits and vegetables. I know one of the things that in our staff meeting this morning, I know the county has some land that they use. I've heard home gardening is becoming a lot more potentially desirable. And so I know we're going to work perhaps to see if there's some way we can enhance that opportunity in our community. I know the county, I think, has a plot of land over on the south side of the river that people can use some of that to grow their own goods and vegetables, and we might try something along those same lines.
We've applied for some of the federal grant money today, 2 or 3 grants that might help That would be money coming into this area, about $100 and something thousand grant to help us build a facility someday, some planning, research funding to kind of...
We like Arkansas stuff, and we like our downtown, and both those connections are going to be winners. We're looking forward, and we appreciate you moving over here last year, and we're ready for season number 2.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let's have we need a motion. Motion to adopt on third and final.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson? Gaines? Baggett?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
On the emergency, Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Baggett?
Yes.
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Concludes new business.
Thank you very much. Any council member? Before I open it up to public comment, we are relocating. Dan Scott, you want to come up to the microphone and let folks know that Neighborhood Services is going to be in the neighborhood?
Yes, sir. This Thursday and Friday, Neighborhood Services will be moving to the Park Hill Water Company complex. That's at 3427 Magnolia in Park Hill. We'll be in the Fieldstone building next to the fire station up there. We like the parking. The building's great. It's also got a storage building directly behind the building where we can keep the equipment that we loan out, which will help us go green a little bit because we won't have to drive down to the compound every time somebody wants to borrow or return equipment. Another thing I'd like to point out is that the Arkansas Travelers' first home game is April 9th. So people who live in the Argenta parking district, the restricted parking district, need to get their permits from our office. We tried to keep City Hall open from 4:30 to 7 tonight. There was about a 10-minute time period when I wasn't vigilant and the doors got locked. So if anybody got trapped by that outside, I apologize. We're going to be bringing that stuff to the Argenta Neighborhood Boosters meeting April 2nd at 6 for those who can't make it during the day. Permits are still available in our office from 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday, except for this week when we're moving. Then after that, they'll be available in Park Hill. And if City Hall will be open to us, we'd like to, on the 13th, do the same thing we did today from 4:30 to 7. That'll be after the first game, but it'll be after the first game when people realize they need to have their permits updated. So, but yes, we're looking forward to moving to 3427 Magnolia, and we should be open for business Friday morning, this coming Friday.
Stop by, easy to get to, a great location, and for those of you who are a little bit quizzical of where it is, there's a fire station right next door, the Park Hill Fire Station, very accessible, very easy to go, very centrally located, and I think it's going to be a good move for all of us. So
I think our folks are going to like the parking up there too, because they won't have to fight the lunch crowd and the downtown crowd and all the special event parking. It's a pretty quiet area. So.
We like the fighting the downtown.
We like
crowd.
everybody to do that, except when they have to come to our office.
Sounds good. The one other thing to make sure the community is aware of, as you heard me introduce Michael in trying to help with our stimulus activity, he's going to be moving downstairs, which will be at somewhat of a thoroughfare too. So if you need any assistance, in terms of, I know Michael's been working with nonprofits and our youth movement and trying to apply for different kinds of grants. That'll be sort of ground central as we try to work through, what we can do not only from, and you heard us talk about, grants, you heard us talk about, a variety of things, but one of the things too that we're going to try to do is to ensure that, people who can take advantage of some of the things that are not necessarily group opportunities, like, there is a tax credit that's available for those people who want to weatherize, up to $1,500, a 30% tax credit. So if I'm not mistaken, the way it would work is you spend $100 on a weatherization project that qualifies, and you get 30 of that off of your taxes next year. I would encourage you to work with us as we start to explore not only the things that are available from a federal government standpoint, but also things that are available vis-a-vis the tax code. Earned income tax credit. We continue to be told that there are many of our folks that are eligible for that and don't take advantage of it. So we're going to try to highlight some of the things that are not only in the stimulus package, but that are available that people don't seem to take advantage of, and we're going to try to do all we can to assist with that, and a lot of those activities will be run out of what used to be neighborhood services.
Mayor, I'm just going to add just one quick comment, that neighborhood up there is a home neighborhood for a lot of us, and that's a great place to have neighborhood services. So I think it's
A great location.
That's a great location up there, so.
No, I just want to say Ward 1 is very happy to have neighborhood services up there. And I just kind of pass along what Shirley Abels in your office said, that I'm not allowed in unless I bring my dog. So y'all are very dog-friendly. If you're out walking your dog, stop in and visit
We
once you
keep
get settled
dog
in.
treats in our office now, and so we sort of let people bring their dogs into City Hall to see us, and so it's not going to change up there in
I've already
Parkdale.
told my dog
Well,
I'll be ready.
Let me back up. Toby used to come down here on a very regular basis, for those of y'all who remember Toby, and he's been gone for some time. But Toby is we are dog friendly, and again, as you heard earlier in the day, our animal shelter is very well known for our care and our enthusiasm for our four-legged friends. Mr. Witcher's dog park, which he brought, I think it was you, if I'm not
And
mistaken.
Charlie and I worked together on it.
Brought that idea back, and I was shocked, not so much at the dog park, but at the popularity of it. There are people out there all the time, so we like our canines.
There's
and
some people we
felines.
don't let into our office, Mayor, unless they bring their dogs, so. Thank you.
Thank you,
All right,
Alderman Witcher.
Mayor, quick comment to the rest of the council. We hear a great deal about the money that's flowing from Washington right now. One of the things that the mayor and I heard on a continuing basis is the regular budget process has not been completed at this time, and it will probably be sometime in May or June. Is it in that about the time frame? So there are still opportunities for earmarks in the regular budget process, and then the transportation bill is being reconsidered, and probably that will be sometime in the fall before that'll be finalized, and normally that's 3 to 5 year time frame. So there will be some opportunities for transportation issues for us, and that includes walking paths, bike trails, converting railroads to trails, our bus service, as I said, and improvements to our highway issue. One of the things that impressed me so much this last week was we had almost unprecedented access to cabinet members. I can't ever recall, Mayor, seeing that many cabinet folks in our meetings, and it, from the Attorney General on down through the Housing Secretary, Transportation Secretary, and others. And of course, the mayor had a personal meeting with the Transportation Secretary earlier in the week. So there are many opportunities, exciting opportunities for us, but we just have to be creative and be vigilant toward those opportunities.
We, and just quick accent of what Alderman Witcher mentioned, the new president is a city person, and he and his administration are zealously moving forward. There's a lot of concern about whether you're going forward on too many fronts at the same time, but I think the country is challenged, and there are a number of challenges that need to be met, and we are excited about the partnership and excited about the future of North Little Rock. As I mentioned, that 5 of our 8 council members, and I just want to add this postscript, joined us for a bus ride today. A week from today, we will start our expanded bus service in North Little Rock. First time we've had Sunday service in 30 years. And that, in addition, is a partnership with the federal government, $150,000, $160,000, and that was matched by Jobs Access Reverse to Work, I guess is perhaps the way it's described. But we will, as of a week from this Sunday, because it's going to start a week from today, so our first Sunday will be the first Sunday in April in terms of our Sunday service. But I can't think it coming at a better time. I pointed out, but I didn't see them focus on it because there weren't that many, but there are 4 new jobs that Central Arkansas Transit hired as a result of our expanded bus service. So, we're adding to the job production 1 job at a time, and today we are part of adding 4 jobs to the Central Arkansas Transit workforce. Take a bus. ride a trolley. You know, you can do it both here in North Little Rock, and now you can do it on longer hours and on one day where you couldn't in the past. Microphone's open. Who signed up?
Bobby Taylor and Mr. Ard.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Mayor, I don't know where I need to keep coming up here, but I want to find out do you know that we got a problem in Rose City with code enforcement?
Taylor,
After all of the evidence that I have brought up here to y'all, and Mr. Carter said it was illegal to do it, and you sat right there in that chair and told me that you had the authority and the power to do something about it. And the code enforcement does things in different places that I don't feel like is right. Two, that I can back it up. Y'all made me get rid of 2 cars. Give me 72 hours to get rid of a 66 Le Mans Pontiac and a 69 Cadillac convertible. That 69 Cadillac convertible already had a destination in California. And it was worth a lot of money. And I wasn't going to have to pay nobody to do nothing. I used to do upholstery. It was all there. And the only thing that was wrong with it, I had to put the gas can on the hood to hook it up to the carburetor to run it up behind the shop to work on it. Same thing, the 66 Le Mans Pontiac. They're all over town. They don't have batteries in them. You can't put a gas can on them and start them. They don't have glasses in them. Some of them don't even have fenders and hoods and stuff on them. And them 2 cars was sitting on a commercial lot right behind the shop. Y'all made me get rid of them. You give me 72 hours. And the same code enforcement officer, there was a house, 2 houses up from the shop. Sewer was running out on the ground right behind the house. It was puddled. It was a little low there. That run back almost to the fence. And I was told one morning when I got to work, there was a guy out there shoveling, digging a ditch to trench that over on me. And I told that code enforcement about it. He went over there and talked to him, and he come back over there and he said, well, he's got a problem over there. He don't have a whole lot of money, and if you'll give him about a month, he'll take it. I said, no, I ain't gonna give him no month. I had to call the state to get that taken care of. Y'all start a lot of stuff that you don't finish. These tarpaulins in these garages and carports and stuff, y'all made me get rid of one, but just because of what y'all said. You said that wasn't legal, and they needed to go, but you never did enforce it. But I didn't know you wasn't going to do it. So it cost me almost $300 to get the post and a door to put on my wood shed. The garbage cans, I talked to you here a while ago on them. They're back out all over the street. They're not being picked up. They're supposed to be put out Sunday night and picked up Monday evening. That's not being done. The noise ordinance, I ain't never talked to nobody that's ever seen one of them noise ordinance on loud music or anything else. You told me they was in effect, because I brought that up twice here. The trash that's been hauled in from different places, there was nothing ever done anything about that. The garbage that was dumped over the fence back there that I talked to you and Mr. Carter about, there was never anything done about that. We bring this stuff up to y'all, and you ride it a little bit, and then just get off that mule and tie him up and just forget about him. And there was a statement made here a while ago about Ward 2 being a used car lot. It's getting to be a salvage yard. And I don't appreciate being done the way I was done over them 2 cars. I'm just like you or anybody else. If I'd have had the opportunity to fix them 2, I'd have had some money. I ain't gonna tell you how much it's worth, because you don't know anything about antique cars, you wouldn't know anything about it. But are you going to do something about our code enforcement? Are you burnt out on us bringing problems to you? Are you not interested in it? I want some help, and you're the only one that can do anything about it. I have nobody else to go to. And the only thing I want you to do is just tell me or the people, yeah, I'm going to, or I ain't. And that'll be the end of it.
Mr. Taylor, obviously, you know, you're kind and certainly sharing things with us pretty much every council meeting. And I can tell you that, you know, I don't know a time that I haven't tried to set things in motion to look at, to determine, you know, I've asked the city attorney's office on several occasions to look at the videos that you provided, you know, and I certainly, you know, am doing everything I know how to try to address the issues that you bring before us. And I will continue to do that, you know, and what I am continuing to ask you, you know, is certainly I don't have the, if I took, you know, if I responded and took the time to do everything that I know you come up here on a regular basis and criticize us, then there would be little I'd get a chance to do in moving the community, the entire community forward. So what I am asking you is I'm asking the city attorney, I'm inciting the code enforcement department, you know, to